So we are talking about One Piece chapter 1100. Thank you, Bonnie. I cried through this entire chapter. This whole section of the story, this whole flashback, I mean, I know a lot of us are feeling it. It's hitting me really hard, very personally. And Kuma's devotion to his daughter is just really getting me. A reminder that I have started working with artists not only to create my thumbnails, which how'd you like today's thumbnail? Oh my goodness, he did such a good job. But also to create a custom One Piece art piece for each chapter created by my artist. Both artists are linked in the description, so there will be a featured art piece just for this chapter, just for this channel later in the video. But last chapter we talked about how, last chapter we left off with Kuma agreeing to allow himself to be the face of the pacifistas, to allow him to be tested and experimented on so that this weapon for the people can be created. Before we get into that though, I do want to point out that Kizaru here does say to Vegapunk, you know so many things, yet you don't know every inch of this laboratory yet. Why? Did I just miss something? Please let me know if I just missed something and this is in reference to something that is going over my head, but to me this doesn't seem to be referencing anything specific, which makes me think, did Kizaru hide something in the laboratory and this is his kind of hint at Vegapunk? Because obviously Kizaru has some sort of relationship. We see that in this chapter with these people. We already knew it before this chapter because he wasn't relishing having to attack Vegapunk and Sentomaru. He didn't want to have to do it, and in fact he asked Saturn to let him do it with honor instead of like going behind Sentomaru's back to attack him. So we already know that Kizaru has relationship with them and has respect for these two characters, and then that's only added on in this chapter as we see that he had friendship with them. He had potentially found family with them over this time that they were all stuck in this lab. So I do look at this line of dialogue, and again, go ahead and tell me if I've just forgotten something or missed something, but you know so many things and yet you don't know every inch of this laboratory yet. Why? Why? Did he hide something? Is Kizaru... We'll talk more about Kizaru in a little bit. We'll talk more about Kizaru. I have some thoughts on Kizaru. Anyway, Saturn reminds us that Vegapunk does not have the authority to be making this deal, and he says, I have my own stipulations. I have my own expectations, and he lists off what he expects from Kuma, the conditions that he wants in order to save this child's life. He wants Kuma to join the 7 warlords of the sea. He wants Kuma to become a human weapon of the Navy, and he wants him to abandon his mind and free will. Keep in mind that he's well aware that he's speaking to a former slave. He's well aware that he's speaking to someone who was born into slavery, that has blood that inherently makes him have a target on his back, and probably also is well aware that at one point he was literally put a target on his back and hunted down to be wiped out for sport. He chose this dialogue, I think, intentionally. There's no reason to word it like that. There's no reason to phrase it that way. Unless you're trying to break the man. I could be reading too much into it. That verbiage just seems unnecessary, except to prove a point. You're never actually free of the control of the celestial dragons. You thought you freed yourself. You thought you had a future. You thought, but no. In order to save your daughter, you're gonna surrender your mind and your free will. You're back under us, baby. I do really appreciate getting this scene from Vegapunk because he to me, he reads as a character that's really smart, that has a lot of really great ideas, but is pretty ignorant. He doesn't consider the consequences of the experiments that he does I have this amazing cure for this disease, but it'd be expensive, so I'm just not gonna bother putting it out there in the world. Or I would love to have everybody upload their consciousness to the World Wide Web, and there's no chance that there will be misinformation put in there. It's all gonna be great. It seems to me like he has a very inventive mind without a very logic-led mind, and I think that this kind of reinforces that concept that I have about him, because while he looks at Kuma and kind of gives him that squinty eye and says, you know, you can't afford to save your daughter's life, so maybe we could bargain, because he's thinking about what he could accomplish with Buccaneer blood. But he still has respect for Kuma's life. He still doesn't want to just kill the guy, because what Saturn is suggesting is despicable to the guy, as it should be. As I'm reading this, I'm enraged along with Vegapunk. I'm so mad at Saturn for being so manipulative and being so cruel and watching unfold what you and I already knew. You know, the fandom had already speculated a lot that Kuma he gave up his free will for Bonnie to save her. So, you know, we're seeing unfold what we already expected, but to watch it actually happen, to watch Saturn actually say directly to him, it kind of reminds me of Udon in Wano, where Queen has the plague gun and he's like, they're not gonna run. It doesn't matter. I've broken them. So all I have to do is hit one of them and it'll spread. I don't have to hit Luffy. I just have to hit one of the prisoners and it'll spread to him. I'll get what I need. In front of the prisoners, he talks about their life in such an expendable way. He talks about them as if, I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me if I kill all of them. They're useless. Their lives don't matter. It reminds me of how how their will to fight had been so taken from them that they could hear Queen say that and they still held on to Luffy. They still grabbed a hold of him and they followed orders because they had accepted that their lives were so worthless. It reminds me of that, the way Saturn is talking directly to Kuma and telling him this reminds me of that mentality of your life doesn't matter. I'm in charge and that's it. So anyway, I was getting all enraged with Vegapunk, and it was when Kuma said, "Would you do it on me, Vegapunk?" that I realized that I was really misinterpreting his body language. He was not crying and shaking because this is horrible what's being asked of him. He was crying of joy. Thank you. I will gladly accept any fate if it means curing Bonnie's disease. I have a lot of thoughts on this. Kuma being so grateful that there's any chance to give his daughter life, that the insult of the manner at which Saturn is making these demands, the manner in which he's treating Kuma as if his life holds no value whatsoever, which we saw in the last chapter, that Kuma low-key thinks that about himself. The manipulation, the cruelty that's happening at play, the absolute abuse of power and lack of value for his own life, none of that matters. None of it is a factor because it means that Bonnie gets to live. What an incredible dad. What a loving, caring, sacrificial, incredible dad. But then also the next panel is Bonnie joyfully laughing and running away from Sentomaru, playing completely oblivious to the sacrifice that her dad is making for her. First, the sacrifice that her mom made for her in giving her life just to give Bonnie a chance of living with Kuma. She had time left in her life, but she sailed across the sea to get her child in Kuma's hands because she knew that he would raise him well, and she sacrificed the last of her life to save Bonnie. And now Kuma, who's sacrificing his life to save Bonnie, and here she is gleefully as a child just playing. That's how it should be. That's how it should be. The fact that both of her parents have given themselves for her, but they don't want her to know. They don't want that burden on her shoulders. They want her to be a child. They want her to keep on playing. They want her to have the joy and innocence of her childhood while they give the world for her. Both of them are such a beautiful story of parenthood to me. Both Ginny and Kuma are such inspiring parents that they don't consider it. It doesn't matter to them. It's their daughter. They would give anything for her. It's the joyful crying, and then the very next page, him covering his face again saying, "I'm so glad Bonnie will be cured by her 10th birthday." It's that relief that she's going to have life, that she isn't condemned to this fate that he thought she was going to have. And he does this one last bargain with Saturn, asking, just don't let her wake up in a lab. Don't let her know what's happened to her. Don't let her know about what the cost has been. Let her wake up at the church. Let her go back to Sorbet Kingdom. And he promises never to see her again after it's all done. He says, I'm not going anywhere. I will never meet with her, but I just have one request. I don't want Bonnie to know about her disease or the fact that she is being held hostage. And what a gift it must have felt like to Kuma after he agreed to the sacrifice, which was definitely not a gift. It was cruel abuse of power. But what a gift after he gave the sacrifice and he promised to never see her again after it was all over. It must have felt like to Kuma to be able to have those 6 months living with her, being able to play with her, see her drawing portraits of him, sleep next to her, have a pizza party with her and the rest of the crew that had been here this whole time. What a gift this must have felt like to both of them to be able to have this time together. And I know for Kuma, it's always in the back of his mind, counting down how many days he has left. But I'm sure he's already resolved himself to the fact that her life is what matters more to him. And so anything to save her. But then the fact that he still, after making that sacrifice, still gets that time with her. I don't know. I'm really glad he got that. I'm really glad they got that. Now, quite a few people on my stream quite a few people in my chat were mentioning that it was really jarring to them to see Kizaru having this pizza party with them and then doing the Nika dance with them. It's not jarring to me. To me, it reinforces what I was feeling before. So back when Kizaru was fighting Luffy, or rather when he was dodging Luffy and he didn't want to have that fight and he was saying, I don't want to do this. This doesn't bring me joy. This doesn't make me happy. I don't want to fight Vegapunk. I don't want to kill someone who I value and care about. I don't remember the exact verbiage, I'm paraphrasing. But he admitted this is not something that I relish. This is something that I'm doing because I'm a cog in the machine, not because I take any sort of joy or delight in this. And then with Luffy, when he was fighting Luffy, it's very clear that he was dodging Luffy far more than he was fighting him. He was not giving his all. He was mucking about. And so, okay, so in those chapter reviews, I don't remember which one exactly, but in that span of chapters, I mentioned that I think Kizaru is going to turn on Saturn, that he's going to be faced with this and he doesn't actually want to do it, and so he's going to end up fighting along our side against Saturn. There's been a theme of the admirals not relishing or even believing in the job that they're doing, but they have to do it. They have to turn on people they care about because that's the game they're playing. That's the system they're stuck in. And so they regretfully do it. And I think that one of them has to turn. One of them will stay. We already have Kuzan, who has defected and he's doing his own rogue thing. I think Akainu is going to keep on going, and I think Kizaru is going to turn tail and actually fight alongside of us. So I mentioned that, and I still kind of have been holding on to that because I think that that would thematically really work. And the fact that Kizaru has clearly developed a bond with them, that he's been living life with them, he's been eating with them, he's been doing day-to-day with them, and in fact is doing the Nika dance with them, doing the dance of freedom and liberation, and probably has learned the lore of Nika as Kuma has taught it while they've all spent these 6 months together. I don't know. I don't think, I could be wrong, but it seems like this is Kuzan's, nope, Akainu, nope, Kizaru. It seems like this is Kizaru's found family, so I don't know. I'm just waiting with bated breath to see how he handles the confrontation that's coming once we finally do come out of this flashback. And this pizza party is the scene that my artist decided to draw, and the note from my artist said that Saturn is the one that brought these people together, and he's also the one that will tear them apart, which I thought was so poetic and very true, that these are a group of people whose paths would never have crossed and certainly would never have stayed together on this level were it not for the intervention of Saturn. And how poetic would it be if Kizaru actually does turn in the battle, that he does stand next to Kuma and defends Bonnie, especially because in that fight he saw Luffy in Gear 5th, so maybe once he hears the drums of liberation, it'll all connect for him and he'll realize that this is who Kuma's been talking about, this is who Kuma's been waiting for, and then he turns, stands next to Bonnie and defends her, and then the one that brought them all together, the reason that they all developed this bond is also not only the reason that they're all torn apart, but maybe also the reason that they come back together again, the reason that Kizaru stands next to them again instead of against them. Wouldn't that be so cool? So Connie agrees to take care of Bonnie while she's back in Sorbet Kingdom, and Kuma says he has to go now, but he'll write her loads of letters. He says, the next time we're together, we'll go to see the horizon at sea, and dadgummit, Oda, if you kill Kuma in the next coming chapters, and Bonnie and Kuma have to say goodbye to each other over the horizon of the sea, I'm gonna freaking lose it. Bonnie says, I can't wait. I want to go on lots of vacations. And Kuma says, and I would love to take you anywhere you want to go. I would have loved to do it. First of all, I hate how much that hurts him, that he made these promises to her, knowing that she probably wasn't going to get to live that long. Now he knows that she will. He still wants to take her to see the world, but even still, he can't. I also hate that this completely recontextualizes him saying that him asking people, where do you want to go on vacation, and what he must be thinking about each time he does that. That's so cruel. And then when he tells her, thank you, Bonnie. Thank you for being born. It's the fact that he's giving up his life for her, and to him, this is a gift because it means that she gets to live and he loves her so much. But it's also the fact that she saw these memories. She now knows the context around her conception. She knows that both of her parents gave their lives to save hers. She now knows all the tragedy surrounding her birth and her continued life. And with all that, she has this memory of her father who died for her, who gave everything for her, who became a mindless weapon for her. She has this memory knowing that her life was still a gift to him, and that he's grateful that she was born, that she got to have life. This wasn't a curse on Kuma, it was a blessing to him. And the fact that he gave her that memory to hang on to, so that if she ever, I don't know if he was thinking this in the moment, but if she ever does find out the context around her life and continued life, she knows that her dad is grateful that he got to give this to her, that he's grateful that she was born and that she entered into his life. I really, really, really love these characters and their relationship. I'm so grateful to have gotten this backstory because I'm so grateful to have been able to see Kuma's story, to be able to see Bonnie's story, to be able to see this relationship. Already, I loved Kuma before we got the flashback, but I love these two parents and how much they've given to their kid so much. And I really feel for Bonnie. I really feel for her, all she's been through and all she now has the knowledge of around what she's been through. Man. Yeah, this backstory hits me hard. So we get to see the world reacting, which is always so fun, but it's also so cool because this is a flashback seeing the world react. So we get to see Doflamingo again. We get to see Robin in her cowboy getup when she's still with Crocodile. We see Mihawk and Kobe when he's still with Alvida. Ace talking with them about the warlord situation. We know that he actually was the one that took out the last warlord, and the reason why the warlord is open. The warlord position is open. We see Jinbei and Boa. We see Dragon, who probably has a lot of feelings about being the reason Kuma went to Vegapunk in the first place. We see the other Revolutionary Army members saying, what? No, Kuma would never do this. We get to see my Perona girl, and recontextualize so much about history and where the world was at the time and how they saw Kuma and this announcement. And we get to see Kuma's Jolly Roger carrying with him everywhere he goes that portrait of that time that he got with his little girl. I don't even know what to do with all this. This one just hits different. This flashback just hits me different. So anyway, you have new orders from the government, Bartholomew Kuma. Where are you now? In the East Blue. What's your command? What's that? What was that? What you doing at Windmill Village? Kuma? What you doing just there? I don't have any theories for you. I don't know what he was doing just there. I have mentioned a couple times before that I think that Kuma knew that Luffy was Joy Boy before this moment. I don't know. I could be really, really wrong, but I've never had a solid reason. It's more of just a gut feeling, and that's still where I am. It's more of just a gut feeling. I don't have evidence to back it up, but there's something in me that thinks that Kuma protected that ship all that time ago, that Kuma has been looking out for Luffy and crew for more reasons than just, oh, that's Dragon's kid. I think that he knew. I just think he knew. I could be wrong. I don't know why else he would be in the East Blue if not to check in on the one that's going to be their great liberator. Oda might prove me wrong very next chapter. We'll see. But what do you think? Why do you think Kuma's in East Blue? How have you been feeling about the flashback? What do you think of Kuma as One Piece's greatest dad? I'd love to hear your thoughts on the chapter. I post videos every Monday and Friday on this channel, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays on the book channel, which is always linked in the description. I'll see you again soon. Bye.